Ace Combat 3 Electrosphere is the third installment in the long-running jet fighter arcade shooting game Ace Combat. It was released for the original PlayStation in 1999, and I played it, and I really liked it. So here's a video of me talking about it. My opinions on Ace Combat 3. I don't know if that's going to be the title of the video. So what makes Ace Combat 3 different from the other entries in the franchise? Number 1, it's futuristic, more than usual anyway, and it actually takes place as the last game in the timeline. Number 2, it has branching narratives and pathways complete with 5 endings plus 1 true ending, but only in the Japanese version. Ace Combat 3's international release was awful, to say the least. They cut out so much content. Half of the game was missing, like literally. The original came with 2 discs, and the English version came with 1. See, not only did they cut out the branching paths, cutscenes, entire missions, dialogue, voice acting, all of it was just gone. Fortunately, there are numerous fan translations of the true Japanese version out there, the most well-known being Project Nemo that was started in 2009. I used a more recent patch by Loadword Team and it worked flawlessly, so thanks guys. Okay, let's talk about the story. The story of AC3 revolves around the Intercorporate War of 2040. This conflict finds the company's General Resource and Newcom Inc. having a bit of a beef, and you are stuck in between them. As usual, you're a silent protagonist pilot for the Universal Peace Enforcement Organization, or UPO. They're this peacekeeping group that kinda sucks at their own job because these 2 mega corporations just won't stop fighting. I won't get into the whole story here, but there are more than enough analyses on YouTube for that, and they're all pretty good. And if you want to be boring and not play the game, you can just watch all the cutscenes on YouTube, I guess. Speaking of cutscenes, the way Ace Combat 3 tells its story is certainly different from other games of its kind. Like, most of the cutscenes are made up of news broadcasts from different stations, company promo videos, interviews, and video calls. This really made me immersed in this world. Everything from the menu to the UI to the cutscenes made me feel like I was really in the world of Strange Reel. So guess what it's like in the American version. Also, you know how in other AC games the logs are just kinda there? And here it's the search engine called Peekaboom. And that alone made me read through all the entries and frequently check them for updates. Like other AC games, Ace Combat 3 is very character-centric. Side note, being one of the more serious games of the bunch, Ace Combat 3, unfortunately, doesn't have your usual delicious, cheesy Ace Combat dialogue talk.
My judgment goes fuzzy when I'm too hungry.
How can you talk about food? He walked all over it with his dirty boots, over the crisp white sheets of my bed that I had just made.
Yo, buddy. Still alive?
In other words, the characters speak like normal people. The characters in this game are numerous, some more interesting than others, but they all serve the plot really well. They have their own goals, motivations, and ideologies they believe so dearly that they preach it to your face. Kinda like a mecha anime. The most interesting character in my opinion is Reina. She's a blue-haired quiet girl with a soft demeanor who grew up in a lab isolated from normal life. And now she only finds purpose in piloting her own billion-dollar war machine. These characters often end up in different factions than the one they started with, and you get that same choice too. So this involves the branching narrative I talked about earlier. You start off the game as a pilot in UPO, but later you get the choice of following General Resources ace pilot Abyssal Dizion into his own faction. Later on in the story, UPO merges with Newcom, making you a Newcom pilot. Or you could assassinate the delegate as well as one of your friends to prevent them merging and stay with UPO. Or do you want to join the emerging terrorist group Ouroboros? Each pathway has their own themes and characters it explores, making Ace Combat 3 a highly replayable experience. Okay, let's talk about the actual game this time. The Ace Combat formula has pretty much been perfected since day one, so there's really not that much difference even if we compare it to the most recent entry in the series, Ace Combat 7. Except for the physics, because they have aged very well. Flying in this game feels so satisfying. I stalled more in this game than I did in Ace Combat 7 and Project Wingman combined. That one mission where you go to space screwed me up so bad, man. It was like I was flying for the first time again. Another thing that's different about this game is surprisingly the pacing. Usually in other Ace Combat games, it's like you're in the menu, you go to the shop, maybe you buy a new jet, you get new parts, and then you select the mission, and then you listen to the 3-minute briefing, and then after that you pick your fighter, you pick the special weapons for that fighter, and then you do the mission, which could take about 40 minutes on the first playthrough. It's not like that in Ace Combat 3. You go from the menu to the briefing room, which usually are extremely short and are no longer than 20 seconds, and then you pick a jet and a special weapon of there's very little variety of, and then you do the mission, which can only take about 3 to 10 minutes. After that, you slow down, you watch a couple news broadcasts, and then you listen to your friends talk, and then you're back in the menu. And then maybe you could read a log entry or two. This game made it so fun to blast through the 52 missions that this game came with. Also, you might have noticed the lack of a shop in the Ace Combat 3 menu. Well, it's because they don't have a shop yet. You get new aircraft by advancing in the campaign, and the types of aircraft you receive depends on the faction that you're affiliating with at the time. For example, if you side with Yukio, you'll get these pseudo-realistic versions of real-life aircraft. GR shares the same principle, but is a bit more experimental. Newcom's fighters, on the other hand, look very funky and futuristic because they're a science and research-based company. Ouroboros has whatever this is. The music in Ace Combat 3 is certainly unique because half of them are just futuristic sci-fi droning. Kinda repetitive, but it does add to the atmosphere. There are a few bangers here and there as expected from an Ace Combat game. It's the soundtrack. It's good. It's alright by Ace Combat standards, but that's just cause the ceiling is up in the sky because of how high that standard is. There is no kimono or magic spear or Zero or Archange, or is it Archange? Ace Combat 3 soundtrack is pretty much just So yeah, that's Ace Combat 3. I enjoyed this game from start to finish like 5 times. It's incredible how Ace Combat has remained this consistent in quality even after 2 decades. Except for that one. Hey, remember when they put aim-down sights in a flight arcade game? And as much as I love the chivalric medieval knight theming of the whole Ace Combat saga, I think it's high time they revisit this time period. And if rumors are to be believed, that's exactly what we're getting. I'm putting Ace Combat 3 Electrosphere in the A tier of the Lotus 2023 game tier list.